Pussycat.
Hello.
Hi, Katrina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right.
I love your backdrop. So cool.
Thank you.
I like those really big ones next to you. Those are crazy.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a werewolf. That was from a Halloween show in October.
Oh, nice. I love him. I like his nose. It's fun.
Yeah.
Nice. For anybody who will be watching this who doesn't know who you are, do you want to give a sort of formal or informal introduction of yourself?
Sure, my name is Miss Pussycat. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'm in my house at the Spellcaster Lodge where I live with Mr. Quintron. I'm a puppeteer. I first got involved in puppetry as a child at the First Baptist Church in Antlers, Oklahoma, where I was in the Christian Puppet Youth Ministry. And I'm still doing puppet shows. And I'm also in a band called Quintron and Miss Pussycat. And typically, Quintron and I do puppet shows as before we play music when we go on tour. So recording electronic music to make soundtracks, that's really fun. I like using a cassette 4-track for that. Like most of the Flossie and the Unicorns albums were done on a Tascam 424 cassette 4-track. I also sew, I paint. I also do ceramics. I do lots of different art forms. I really like working with my hands. And I think that's why I like puppetry so much, is because it's almost every art form rolled into one.
I feel like you, more than a lot of artists I know, use so many mediums. Some people seem to kind of get a one-track mind when they find something they like and stop there, but you kind of do it all, which is awesome. What was the journey of going from, experimenting with art to finding the ones that you really love and do all the time?
Well, I'll tell you one that I failed at that I wanted to be good at was glass blowing.
Oh, yeah, that seems really difficult.
Terrible disaster. A lot of times, like I want a thing and it doesn't exist the way that I want it, so I have to just figure out how to make it myself. And like I've been making furniture for the last week. So I think a lot of times it's you want this thing and it doesn't exist, and so you have to figure out how to make it yourself. And for puppetry, because I understand this is for your Puppet Month special.
Yeah.
I think puppetry, you want a magical world, and it doesn't exist. So you can make it, and you can make your own magical world with puppetry. And then you can make the other creatures that will live there with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can make it sound the way you want, and that is what is so special about puppetry.
Everything you're saying about the magical world you can create with puppetry reminds me of, you said on your website, you mentioned sympathetic magic. In reference to puppetry, which you defined as acting out stories, fantasies, rituals, or wishes with tactile objects or effigies. And if you control the objects, you control the things they represent. Which I love. And I'd love to hear if you have any, I guess, specific examples in your work you can think of.
Yeah, a lot of times it just happens, and I feel like you have to be aware that could happen. I try to always have a happy ending. I feel like it's very dangerous to not have a happy ending. Conflict is important to make a story interesting, but I'm always really wary of conflict in a story. Trixie and the Tree Trucks, Mystery in Old Bath. We were filming a scene where they're in the Wigwam Hotel. There's this creepy motel, and because I've gone on tour a lot, I've stayed in a lot of really yucky hotels.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, there's spiders, and JJ Suede is outside. He's following them. So it's like, okay, I'm just trying to, this is just this funny night in the creepy motel. And then while we were filming this, there's all these puppeteers, like the puppets over their head. Phones are blowing up. And our friend Jonathan Tobin had been in a really weird, horrible freak accident in a motel
Wow.
in Portland.
Wow,
And
that's crazy.
like plowed through the wall of this motel. He was asleep and he almost died. It was horrible. He's okay now, if you know Jonathan Tobin.
That's good.
It was weird because we were filming this really intense motel scene, and then this thing had just happened and people were trying to call us. So I feel like there's a connection. And so anytime there's anything dark or creepy, I'm like, ooh, make sure you fix that. And Trixie and the Tree Trunk started after Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, in the aftermath in New Orleans. And so the terrible snowstorm that hit the magical forest was Hurricane Katrina, and it destroyed everything. And then this is Trixie and Marcia and their friends trying to put their lives back together. And so there's a lot of metaphors with all the things that they're doing. And
speaking of Mystery in Old Bath, absolutely fantastic. I am such a big fan. It's on my top 25 favorite movies. It is so good. And yeah, I'd love to hear more about if there were any challenges that came up you weren't expecting and how you dealt with those.
So it's part of a series called Trixie and the Tree Trunks. And there's other puppet movies that I've made. Quintron and I made North Pole Nutrias, I think in 2001 it came out, and it's a Christmas special. And then Electric Swamp, which is about Ernie Cato and Formosan termites. And then we made Trixie and the Tree Trunks after that, season 1. Then there was Spirit Hair, and that's about Marcia, who's Trixie's best friend, and she's a hairstylist, and she works at a hair salon called Hair Jam. And all these right now are streaming on Night Flight, which is just good for everybody to know, because Night Flight is a great platform, and making an independent puppet movie means you don't have any distribution.
Yeah, all the old documentaries and music videos, so cool.
They're great. So Mystery in Old Bath is part of a series about Trixie and Trunks. And I don't know how long it took, maybe a year. All of my puppet movies have just been funded by myself, maxing out parts.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. But all of these are really fun to make. There's nothing more fun than making a puppet movie, I think. And most of these were just done in our house, in our living room, all over my studio, and just building sets and then shooting in that same room usually. I have a few really good puppeteer friends. I found it's worth it to get good puppeteers. Not everybody can actually puppeteer very well. It's hard. But luckily I have a few friends that are really good puppeteers. And they're all just like no budget productions. It's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like Marcia washing Trixie's hair was so fun. Like Trixie has several stunt doubles. Here, I'll show you one. There's lots of stunt doubles.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because she puts on makeup sometimes and all of that, and I didn't know if you just washed them up every time, but stunt doubles make sense.
Makeup Trixie. See, she's got eyeshadow on. It's magic marker. And this is Marcia, and this is the other Trixie. Oh no, this is makeup Trixie. She has more makeup on. There's varying degrees of makeup. There's one Marcia and Trixie each. They can just get blown up or caught on fire. So the main characters have stunt doubles. And the hair washing scene was really fun. I don't know, I just try to think of things that I think would be really fun, and then I put them in a story that solves a problem that I actually want to solve. So usually. Yeah,
it's that sympathetic magic again. Yeah, they're a lot bigger than I expected too. They're like a medium-sized dog. Yeah, all of your characters are so vibrant, and I feel like their personalities are so specific, and that makes them feel so real. Um, do they start to ever, I guess, feel more like friends than puppets to you?
Yeah, that once you really get to know them, if it's a good character, it'll start writing the stories themselves. They have a life of their own. And that is one of the best things that you can have, because it's like you make this car, this vehicle, and then or spacecraft, and then you just get inside and see where it takes you. And the best puppets have a life of their own. So it is like getting to know a person, but it's a different format.
What is your character creation process like?
I'm usually thinking about a lot of different things at once. You have to have a bad guy. The bad guy is really important. And they're really the most fun characters. And I find that the good characters can be kind of boring. And in fact, the whole thing will be boring if you don't have some bad guys. So that's part of the process. Like this is the Goblin cake back here from Live Puppet Show. And I love this puppet. And I wouldn't say it's actually bad, but it's a goblin. But it's a goblin. The Mean Witch Christy Corn Pop, there's lots of witches. If you need anything fun to happen, just have a witch puppet and it'll get good. If they have something to do, it just makes them more interesting. So puppets can do certain things and some things they are not very good at. I think puppets are good at playing guitar and starting bands. They're good at kissing and making out. Sometimes they're good at talking, but it can get boring. They're good at transformation, and they're really good at death scenes. There's nothing more fun than decapitating a puppet. Most of the puppet shows that I do are live and in a rock club. And I don't have very much time to set up or break down, and I'm not preaching to the confirmed. People aren't in a theater sitting down in a comfortable seat. They're probably drunk. And they're going to get antsy. So I have to really get people's attention and hold it and have the audience like engaged. You know, you kind of have to trick people into entertaining them. But it's super fun because puppetry is a really earthy art form, actually. You think about Punch and Judy and this mongrel horde of people watching. And that's still the essence of the puppetry I like. So, but with live puppetry, there's different problems, and whatever setting you're in, there's different situations and kind of what you can get away with, really. And with a movie, you know, you can do close-ups, you can do a pan, you can have soft focus, and you're going to edit later. So you're going to speed up things if they need to be sped up. And live, you kind of have to edit before you get there and judge the pace while you're on your feet doing it.
Your shows seem just so alive and interactive. Do you have any advice for making a truly extravagant production within the confines of a small or low budget venue?
I think the most important thing when you're making a show, or really when you're doing anything, is to have fun. And if you're having fun, you'll convey that. And that is one of my favorite qualities in art, is when I feel like the person making it was having fun while they were doing it. And of course there's hard work, but you want to make sure it's something you care about and are having fun doing. And just make sure you can set it up and move it yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Which, reminds me of your blow up puppet house. Did you ever use that on tour?
I made a blue one and I made a white one that's a castle. And yeah, I was in Florida on Captiva Island, and there are all these pool toys and around me. I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make the inflatable puppet theater. I got it. And so I figured it out. It's made out of ripstop, and it's kind of like lawn decorations, like the giant inflatable snowmen that you see in people's yards right now. And it packed down wafer thin, but you know, it's still, I had to get to that point and figure it out. But the inflatable puppet theaters are really fun.
What is it like to travel on tour with so much fragile things like that?
A lot of times if we're crossing a border like into Canada or in Europe on tour, we'll put the trunk of puppets so it's right there when they open it, the back of the van or whatever, if we think we're going to be inspected. And usually it brings a smile to the custom officer's face. But once coming back from a like really long tour in Europe, I got hassled so bad, and they went through every puppet and everything, like 2 trunks full of stuff, and it all smelled so bad because we'd been on tour and people could smoke in a lot of the bars that we were in Spain and France. Anyway, and lots of, you know, stale beer smell on the puppet theater, and oh, it was just like, they gave me such a hard time at the airport. I thought I was going to go to jail for having smelly puppets. So,
Yeah, that's scary. I'm sure all the officers who smile, though, I think that's really cool because custom officers especially are so serious all the time. I'm glad, you know, something like puppets can still crack them.
yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of your live shows, I've never been to New Orleans, so I'd love to hear about what the scene is like there from your perspective, and how it's holding up during the pandemic.
New Orleans is great. I mean, for live music and having fun, New Orleans is the best. That's what the whole city kind of bases its economy on. And so it's great. There's music everywhere normally, but right now, like everywhere else, things are shut down, and I don't really know what it'll be like by the time this is over. I'm sure it will come back, but you know, a lot of our favorite bars have closed already, and we'll see. So
Yeah, yeah, here too. Yeah, thankfully, I see a lot of people trying instruments for the first time and things like that, so I'm hoping there will be more music, definitely, but yeah, it's very hard with so many venues closing.
yeah, but you've been making lots of videos. So have you ramped that up because of the pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. I actually usually work in live music, but when the pandemic started, obviously no live music events could happen, so we really hunkered down. We got this office and have been making COVID safe video productions. You know, I produced and directed a music video for this first time, which actually has a puppet in it, which is kind of what started this whole wanting to do puppet month. Yeah, holding a puppet for the first time and getting to animate it was so cool and so fun. How do you feel like your personality is specifically conveyed through your puppets?
Well, it's fun because you can try so many different things out. Like I love doing, just to go back to the bad guys, I love doing the bad guy voices. Here, I'll try to do one for you. Well, it's scary, but it's sweet. A full moon kind of treat. So
that's awesome.
I love doing the bad guy voices, or like the Mean Witch Christy Corn Pop. I will leave it in the basket in the basement. So, and normally I have a nice sweet voice. I get to, I don't know if that's, you know, I guess it's my personality to enjoy that, but I get to, with puppetry, you don't have to be yourself, and you don't have to be whatever age you are. You can be shaped like a pyramid. You can have 16 eyes and 1 arm. So that's one of the great things is transformation through puppetry. You can be whatever you want.
Yeah, kind of like you were saying earlier, it incorporates all kinds of art all into one. And it's one that you can really do yourself and create your vision how you want. You did a lot of the voices for a lot of the characters, right?
I did, but one of my favorite things is finding other people to do voices. So I'm always listening for that really great vernacular. I love people who just have a weird accent. So like my dad did the voice for Ludwig in the Mystery in Old Bath Bath.
I cannot believe this town does not have any water.
And I love that I got him to do that. People from the town in Oklahoma that I grew up in, sometimes I'll trick them into doing a puppet voice. That's really fun. I got Sheriff Harry Lee to do the voice of a virus puppet in North Pole Nutrias.
Stuffed toys are virus fiddles. Dolls are virus fiddles. Bad guy power, bad guy power, bad guy power.
I got Peaches to do a voice for a puppet once, and Big Frida, and so it's really it's actually real. I like doing voices, but it's so much better if you get other people as well.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about movies too, is seeing like all the people you love. You're like, oh, there's that person, and it's just so wholesome that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you grew up in Oklahoma. What was the journey of going from Oklahoma and puppets at church to now here in New Orleans with your own specific style?
Well, I studied art in college, and then right after college, I moved to New Orleans, and shortly after that, I started doing shows in my house. I had this big building here, and my friends and I started a secret nightclub called Pussycat Caverns, and bands would play, and it was super fun, but bands, nobody wanted to go first. Maybe you're familiar with this issue. And so you end up waiting and waiting and waiting and postponing the whole show. It's very annoying. And it's like, well, there's a few people here, let's just do something. So I was like, I know, I'll do a puppet show. And I hadn't done puppet shows in several years, but I was like, oh, this would be great. And so I started doing puppet shows in my house when we were having these parties. And it was just so fun. And it's like, oh my God, this is just so much fun. And it just fit in. And so I never stopped. I mean, it was pretty quickly like, it just manifested itself. It was super fun. And then I did a puppet show in my house to open up for Quintron. And I didn't know who Quintron was. We talked on the phone, and I was having this big Mardi Gras show, and it was going to be the Demolition Doll Rods, Quintron, and Crash Worship. And the police in New Orleans hated Crash Worship because the last time they had a show, the cops had come, and some people in the crowd had busted the windshield of the cop car. So there was a vendetta. It was very dangerous to put on this show, but I just had to do it. I felt like I had to do it. I wanted to do it so bad. So we're going to do this big show. And of course, the cops showed up right away. And they told me, we're either going to take you to jail if you do this show, or we're going to take you to the hospital. So there was like 500 people waiting to get in. We locked the door and waited, and eventually the cops left. And then I said, well, you know what? I can do a puppet show. It's really quiet. And I did my puppet show. And then Quintron played. He was playing drums at that time. And that's how we met. It was this big, crazy Mardi Gras show. The Crash Worship did not play, and the Demolition Doll Rods thought that I was insane, and they did not play. But we're all still friends. But and then Quintron and I fell in love, and then he lived in Chicago, and he asked if I would go on tour with him to open up doing a puppet show. And I said yes. And then we went on tour. It was a couple months later, and I think it was the second or third show was in Las Vegas at Benway Bop Record Store. And Quintron picked me up after the show, and he carried me outside and got down on his knees, and he proposed. And then we got married in Las Vegas at the Chapel of the Bells. And then we went on a pink roller coaster ride at Circus Circus. And we ate at the buffet in the MGM Grand. And then we went on tour for a month together. And by this point, Quintron was playing organ, not just drums. And I was doing a puppet show to open up. And it was, the rest is history.
It's a super cool love story. I don't think I've heard very many like that at all. What's it like to get to make art with your partner all the time? You know, you're both making so many collaborative projects. I'd love to hear more about what that's like.
Quintron and I, for the most part, get along really well, and we both just like to make things. And we always say, like, okay, we're going to be at camp today. So we kind of pretend like we're at like summer camp, and Quintron goes, and he's in a different program at camp, and he's working on electronics, and I'm working on whatever weird art project or puppet show I am. And then we'll practice together, and sometimes we'll have snack time, and then we'll go back to camp. And it's great. Quintron's been making a lot of bath buddies lately, which is his latest invention, which sets off an alarm when your bathtub is full, and that's because I overfilled the bathtub twice. And he's been making white noise bongos, and so through this whole pandemic, Quintron and I mean, we miss doing live shows, of course, like everyone, but we've been trying to just think about all the other super fun projects that we have that maybe we wouldn't have as much time for. And so we've been busy, but it's great. I love working with Quintron, but really the way we work is Quintron's the president of his world and I'm the president of my world, and then we help each other.
The camp idea is super fun. I think that could be applied to almost anything or anybody. Yeah, with a nice little snack time.
Snack time. And we have a record that just came out in October, and this is a super weird time to have a new record come out. But we like, you know, a couple months ago, we were busy making videos and trying to figure out how to do that right now. And with the way that we collaborate on music, I mean, Quintron is definitely the leader in that for sure. And I sing and play maracas. Music is one way that we can really kind of weirdly combine our strange skills, and making videos too. But it's definitely a weird year for all that.
Yeah, definitely. You've both done so many mediums, but also so many different projects. When you're coming up with all these different crazy ideas, how do you kind of know which ones you really want to focus your time on?
Usually it's just because you're obsessed, you know, like anything else, you just can't stop thinking about it. It's like an itch that you can't stop scratching.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw, you have art exhibits in, I think it was Texas and Florida right now, right? Yeah.
Show in Pensacola at the Pensacola Museum of Art. Or it's a group show that I'm in, but I made, I've always said, like, I should just make my own maracas. And so I was like, well, you know what? I got time. I'm going to do it. So that show, I have all these maracas that I made out of paper mache, and I use Type Bond 2 wood glue and brown paper bags. And it makes really good hard paper mache. And some of them look like Mr. and Mrs. Circus peanuts. That's one of my favorites. And witches and different characters. I don't even know what they are, but they sound really good. I use different things to fill them, sometimes rocks or wooden beads or I don't know, just different things so they sound different. Because they can't play live music right now, they each have a little satin pillow so they can just rest. And there's some videos in that show and puppets too. And then I have a show in Texas in Waxahachie at the Web Gallery. And that, I mostly did oil paintings of puppets and some ceramic sculptures.
What other things have you been working on in the pandemic, or what are you excited to get back to?
I've been making furniture for the last week.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of ceramics too. And I mean, just kind of going bonkers like everybody else. But I've been trying to work on puppets that dance really good. So here, let me move these guys out of the way and I'll show you. Picky Red Squirrel. He went to Goner Fest. And then there's this guy. He was in a video we just did for Goblin Alert. And then this one is this is for style puppetry, kind of more tabletop puppetry. His arm's broken, but it's Mr. Moonbeam. It's got a different kind of action. So I think I just missed dancing because I've been making these puppets that dance. That's the puppetry I've been working on lately. I took a marionette workshop this summer. That was super fun with Kurt Hunter and Jim Rose through the O'Neill Summer Puppetry Conference. It was online this year. And I taught a puppetry workshop on making tiny paper lantern puppet theaters. And that was super fun. And then we've done some online shows, and I feel like puppeteers have gone nuts with the pandemic in a really amazing way. It makes me so proud of the puppetry that I'm seeing. Just so much innovation. Puppeteers jumped on having online festivals immediately. I watched one last night. I'm going to watch one tonight. There's so many puppetry festivals online on Facebook and Zoom.
Do you have any other major influences on your art?
Ernie and Antoinette Cato. They were a huge influence. And they're both dead now, but Ernie Cato had big R&B hits, Mother-in-Law being most notably, and they lived in New Orleans and had a bar called the Mother-in-Law. And they just took Quintron and I under their wing and we're like, this is how you do it. And we're so lucky that we got to know them and to be part of their inner circle for a while. Very, very, very special people.
This has all been so cool to hear about. Do you have any of your early puppets here in your studio?
Let's see. Yes, here. I have to stand up to show you. Maybe. So this is Princess Pandora's Stardust. She's in Flossie and the Unicorns. Can you see her? It's hard to get the angle there. Oh, she's so cute. Yeah, that's Princess Pandora's Stardust, and she's in Flossie and the Unicorns. And when she turned 100 years old, she turned into a giant flying cockroach, and she started being a menace to the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And then she had to go live in the center of the earth because she was just her reign of terror was so intense. And now Flossie and Snicklefritz, the guitar playing turtle, and her just live in the center of the earth, and they practice all the time.
What is she made out of?
Great stuff.
Wow, yeah. All your characters have such a strong personality. It's so fun. I wish I could, in a way, interview each of all of them too. Not only are your puppets really cool, but you have so many. So it seems like you've really tried a lot of different styles of puppets, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the very elaborate ones with the talking mouths and all the moving parts, but it's cool to see you incorporate those alongside other ones who seem simpler to make, or at least less intimidating to make, and you still can bring them so much life even if their mouth isn't moving, which is crazy but cool.
I think simpler can be just great. If something's really complicated to manipulate, maybe it's not as much fun to operate, or you're gonna be paying attention to some mechanism that's actually a distraction. So I you know, I'm a fan of simple.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people who want to start out getting into puppetry?
Yeah, go to the library and check out lots of books. And there's certain resources for people who are interested in puppetry, and a lot of your viewers probably know this, but maybe some don't. There's a wonderful resource in the Puppeteers of America, which is an organization for puppeteers. I think it was started in the 30s. And there's festivals. Normally there's, there's regional festivals on even numbered years and national festivals on odd numbered years. They put out the Puppetry Journal 4 times a year. And you can just join if you're interested in puppetry, and it's a great resource. And then there's Unima USA, and that's an international puppetry organization. And they put out a magazine, I think 2 times a year, and they're great resources. And there's also puppetry museums, and there's one really close to you, and you should go when you can. And that is the Northwest Puppetry Center. And it's in Linwood outside of Seattle. And it's run by the Carter family. And my friend Dimitri runs it now. I think his parents started it. And it's a great museum and a great resource. So puppeteers are weirdly organized, but you know, it's not just one lone puppeteer out there. A lot of times it is, but there's also these great organizations and museums and companies. Sometimes people will say like, oh, you know, is this old fashioned, or is this an art form that's dying? And I don't, it's not. It is so relevant. Just like now there's all these online puppetry festivals, or in movies and videos and green screen and animation. It's very useful. And some of my, there's great puppeteers now, and there's great puppeteers that you can look to from the past, and great books about puppetry in almost any public library. That's one reason that I am so fascinated with puppetry, is there's always more stuff to learn. There's so many weird technical things to learn. So go get a bunch of books. That's my advice. It's so fun. I really love the books of Nancy Renfro. She was a big influence on me. And I never met her. It's just through her books that I checked out at the library. And it was like, oh, I could do this. This looks so fun. And a lot of times there's puppet shows at libraries. There's programs for puppetry in a lot of public libraries. So it's very accessible. Anybody can do a puppet show.
That's a very good resource for people who want to dip their toes but aren't sure if they want to go all in yet. I think that's everything I have, but it was so nice to meet you. And
yeah, it was nice to talk to you, Katrina. Yeah.
You made a puppet?
You should, totally.